Now let's take a look at a Z plugin called ZColor. ZColor is found under the Z plugin menu here. It's the last item, and if you unroll it and then click ZColor, it will load up the ZColor interface. Now you may notice that I don't have my ZBrush maximized right now. That is because the ZColor menu, unlike other ZBrush menus, will float above your workspace. So I could potentially bring this over to a second monitor and have it docked off screen, or I can keep it floating over my workspace as I paint. And that's extremely valuable because other ZBrush menus are docking on the left or right, or they will take over the active screen and you have to Alt-Tab back to ZBrush. ZColor is designed so it floats, so you have constant access to it while you're working as you would a proper color palette. Now, ZColor is giving us the ability to have a very robust color selection tool. Previously, if we wanted to work with color in ZBrush, we would be working with the the color wheel here. Maybe we would go to color and open up the modifier submenu, and there we've got a few other variations on color selection. Some of us would create a background image and then have our color swatches painted on there, and then we would just click and drag from this color swatch to pick up any color off the screen. Notice if you hold the Alt key, that will differentiate between the shaded pixel and the raw pixel color. Personally, I would often, as I was painting a character, I would just paint my colors onto the back. So I just had a little section of color swatch there so I could always go back and select my base colors again. None of these were ideal solutions, and what ZColor introduces for us is the ability to save out color palettes and have them always accessible, and even save them to disk to open them later to use on another painting. So let's take a look at how this works. The interface opens up like this, and on the left-hand side you see a selection of swatches. Now these particular swatches are named with their hexadecimal values. On the right-hand side we have our color selection and our assigned color. So if I were to click on a color here, you see my color selection changes. Now here, if I click these two little arrows, this will open up a subpalette where we have HSV and RGB sliders to adjust the color value. And down here you see we have a color wheel that shows our exact selection. And then most interestingly, we have this selection of swatches on the right-hand side. Now these are color systems. We've got an analogous color scheme. We have the shades here. We have monochromatic, complementary, triadic, and then split complementary. Now these come from color theory. If you're not familiar with these, I highly recommend taking an afternoon, getting on YouTube and watching some videos on color theory, because this is very helpful when you're painting. When we want to paint a prop or a character or costume, it's really good to have an established color palette. So here with my selected color, this gives me the analogous color scheme. And what that means is those are the colors that are left and right along the color wheel. They are the analogous colors. Next we have the shades. Now that's just moving this dot up and down. It's the relative lightness and darkness of that one specific color selection. Next we have monochromatic, and that's simply that color fading out towards white. It's just monochromatic. It's one color. Next we have complementary. Now that is our color plus the complement. So here I've got the color selection and the complement on the opposite side. So the complementary color is always that color that sits on the exact opposite of the color wheel. Triadic is a color scheme that's created by superimposing a triangle over your color selection. So here I've got the orange, I have the greens and the purples. So that's the triadic color scheme. And then lastly, we have split complementary, which is the complement and the color selection. So it's basically and splitting off to a third color. So it's basically two primaries and a secondary. Having a set color scheme, I can't stress enough how much guesswork that takes out of your painting process. If you're just putting down color until it looks right, which is a valid way of painting, sometimes I paint that way, that's one thing. However, if you have a set color language, then you know, well, I'm going to be selecting the analogous colors for this, or I'm going to be selecting the split complementary. And it just keeps your color language unified and making sense on the color wheel. So let's switch over to the light box and let's open up a polysphere just to make things a little bit easier to see. Let's focus in on that and let's change our color to white. Now, as we're set up right now, you see that we've got two little buttons here. This first button, if we mouse over it so we get the tooltip, let me click in that interface so it's active. This is direct mode. If I select this and then select a color, you'll see that it updates on my sphere. The sphere doesn't have a color filled on it yet, so as I select these colors, they become the color that's on the sphere. So if I want to select this orange and then click Set Color, that sets my color selection. And then if I click Fill, select that color, it will fill the object with whatever color I have selected. So that is now filled. So if I turn that off and then I change my color selection, it's not going to actually change the color that I have on the object. So if I select this orange and click Set Color, and then switch to this and Set Color, you see that it's setting my current color selection. If I turn off direct mode and then select color, I can compare my currently selected color. So when I'm setting color, I'm setting my active swatch. Watch what happens down here. If I change my color, nothing happens. If I click Set Color, that sets my color selection. So the reason for these two swatches is to allow you to compare and contrast between your current selection and what you're clicking on. So currently I have this color set. If I go to my standard brush, change to RGB and turn off Z Add, I am now painting, oops, turn on RGB, I am now painting with that color selection. If I scroll down and let's say switch to a different color, click Set Color, that is now my color selection. So I'm now painting with this color. So let's take a look at how we can update these swatches on the left-hand side. This is my color library. So if I click File New and say No, that clears those swatches. Now, down here, anytime I selected a color, these color schemes would update. If I wanted to keep these color schemes, I could lock them. So let's go ahead and load up a new color selection. I will go to File, and then I will click Open. Now, this will take me to the Applications ZBrush 2020 folder, ZPlug or ZStartup, ZPlug64, Color Data, Swatches. So basically, let me show you that in the browser window. Here you go. You see we've got our, here it is down here. We've got Applications. On Windows, this would just be your ZBrush 2020 install folder. ZStartup, ZPlug64, ZColor Data 2020, swatches, and here we have our swatches. Now there's two types of files in here. There's a ZCO file and an ACO. ACO is an Adobe Color file, and we'll get to that in a moment. We're interested in the ZCO files here, so if we do ZColor sample colors and click Open, that opens these colors, and you'll notice these are named with actual color names. These are not given hexadecimal values. So if I want to find everything purple, I can start typing purple, and that will give me all of my purples. If I want all the oranges, I can do OR, and that gives me forest green and Z orange, because OR is a string that's in both of those names. I could also just scroll down these. So let's say I like the sage green. Notice when I click it, it makes that my color selection, but it's not my assigned color. Down here, it gives me updated swatches for that particular color scheme. So if I select this, those will update. If I select this, those will update. If I lock these, you see that those do not change when I change my color selection. If I set color, I have now set that sky blue, and that is my color that I'm painting with. So let's clear these swatches again. I'll go to File, New. That clears the swatches. Now I can create my own selections. If I right-click on the analogous color scheme, I can add row to swatches. Now notice this has been renamed. It's AN 1 through 5. That tells me this is an analogous color scheme, values 1 through 5. If I come down here, right-click and add row to swatches for split complementary, I get SP 1 through 5. So this just helps me put together a few of these color schemes, and it names them clearly so I know what I have selected. Now, my favorite thing that we can do with the ZColor plugin is loading up our own Adobe Color file. So let's click New, say No, and go to File, Import. Now these are Adobe Color swatches. So if I go to, let's say, let's do Visibone. Here we have a selection of colors and values that were stored in that Adobe Color file. Now, what's most interesting is we can make our own Adobe color files. I'm going to click New, clear that out. And then I'm going to go to color.adobe.com, the website, and let's switch over to that now. Close out of ZColor. There we go. So this is color.adobe.com. Now, if you don't have a account here, go set one up because this allows you to explore color, learn new ways of thinking about color, and creating your own theme. So here we have a color wheel where you can just directly select color by moving these swatches around. This is analogous. I can do monochromatic. You see this very, very clearly shows you how these sit on the color wheel. There's the triadic that I was telling you about, which is a triangle superimposed on the color wheel. Split complementary, we've got these two colors and then the complement. So that's sort of a Y shape superimposed over the color wheel. Now as I move out this way, it's more saturated. As I move in this way, it's desaturated. There we go. If I go to, let's say, shades, here I get my single color selection, but it gives me relative lightness and darkness of that color. Now, if I go to extract theme, this is fantastic. This allows you to bring any image into the website and it will extract a color language from it. So if I click select a file, I have this image of a mummy head. Now I can move these bits around to make selections. Maybe I don't want the background so much as I want the various hues of brown and gray that are in the face here. So I can move these and this will start to give me actual selections off of this image. Now I can do I can extract by using mood. These can be useful. Usually I have it set to none, but I can focus on the darks, I can focus on the deeps, muted colors, which would be desaturated, the brighter values, colorful. Let's go back to none, and then we'll just reset these back where they were. So here we've got a selection of colors sampled off this mummy. Now I can tag them here however I want, and then I can set the name, and we're just going to call this new mummy head. And then I click Save. Now what this does is it saves this into my swatches. So if I go to My Themes, open up my Maddie folder here, here's all these different color swatches that I've saved. I've got one from a Seurat painting. I have a few from a mummy. I've got a moire eel who I selected color off of. I have a cool version, a couple mummies, lip gloss color theme, coral color theme. So here's my new mummy head. Now here I've got a download button. If I click download, that will download that as one of those Adobe color files. So now we can go back to ZBrush. Let's open ZColor again. Now I'm going to go to File, Import, and I'm going to import that file that I just downloaded from Adobe. So we go to File, Import. We'll say no. And I'm just going to go to my folder where I have saved that particular file. And here I've got Mummy Head ASC. There we go. There are our swatches. So I can select those. I can delete the swatch if I right click on it, or I can select it. Now if I unlock my swatches down here, I can further refine this down by breaking out individual color selections into other palettes. So maybe I want to grab this one, add that row to swatches. So here I can continue to sort of expand out my potential color selections, and I've got them right here in the ZColor interface. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on set color, and now I will be painting with that brown. Or maybe I want to select this as a base tone and fill the object, so we'll select that. There we go, that fills the object. And now I can make other selections, say for example, there we go, set color, and I'm painting again. There we go. So you can see it's very, very, very easy with ZColor to have access to a unified color palette and very easily go in and select colors and then assign them to your brush or to your model. So if you have the opportunity, I highly recommend exploring the Adobe Color site, bringing in some custom-made palettes, and having a go at painting some characters. I think if you're painting an alien, it's a great idea to grab some images of sea life and then use those images to extract a color palette, and then try and apply that same color palette to your alien character. So I hope you found this helpful. This is one of my favorite ZBrush plugins. It's probably the most useful for a lot of what I do because when I'm painting, I always want to be able to have the most robust tool set for selecting color. And this is the best thing to happen to color in ZBrush since the color wheel. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next lesson.